What's going on, guys? Today we're doing a video talking about my experiences meeting different UFC fighters. I was kind of bored. I went to Vegas this past International Fight Week. It was an awesome experience. Got to meet a lot of cool people, a lot of cool fighters. But the first UFC fighter I ever met was at a small MMA promotion called Fight For It. I think it was Fight For It 9. I was sitting there front row watching these fights, and I'm like, wait a second. This guy walks by. I'm like, wait a second. That guy looks just like Brian Battle. He has a buzz cut. It was blonde. I was like, this was like 2022, I think. I was like, that looks like Brian Battle. So I was like, I didn't get a picture with him because he was coaching. He was cornering his guys. So I was like, I don't want to be that guy that, takes away the moment of winning or whatever. I was just like, yo, Brian, what's up? He was like, yo, he was like, yo, he waved at me and my family that was there with me. So he was a cool guy. From the small interaction that we had, he was a pretty cool guy. The next fighter I met was this past June in Las Vegas. Also, yes, I was lucky enough to go to International Fight Week this year for my graduation trip. So if you guys ever get an opportunity to go, I would say go. It was honestly blast. But going from the East Coast to the West Coast, it's so hot in Vegas. It was like 107 degrees some days in Vegas, and I was like, dude, I can't do that. But the next guy I met was Alexander Volkanovski. I saw that he was going to be there, and I saw the line for it, and before Volk came out, Nunes was there. And I was like, okay, Volk comes. I don't remember exactly what time it was. I think it was 3 Volk came out. Maybe it was 2. But Nunes was there until 2. And I got in line when Amanda Nunes was still there. I was like, I'm not going to see Amanda, but I'll be in line for Volk. So I was already pretty far in line. I got pretty lucky there. I was by myself. My dad was just walking around. He was just, seeing everybody. He's an older UFC fan. He was looking at like Chuck Liddell and stuff. I wasn't even born whenever he was like active. So, it's whatever. I was waiting in line, dude. It took forever. It really was like, I stood in line for probably 2.5 hours. I probably got in line at, I think 12. If it started at 2, it was like 12. It was like 2 hours early. And dude, it was 2.5, 3 hours I stood in line to meet Volkanovski. And people in line were awesome, by the way. There was some guy, he was like an amateur MMA fighter. I think he was like 3-0. He was a cool guy. He was talking to us and stuff. And then there was another guy behind me. He was from like Washington State, and he was a cool guy too. Asked me where I was from and everything. Awesome people, by the way. UFC fans are fucking awesome. I love UFC fans. Everybody there was the nicest person ever. But so Volkanovski, I'm getting closer. I'm like, dude, that's Volk. That's the great Alexander, the featherweight goat, top 5 of all time. I'm like, bro, I'm about to meet Volkanovski, and I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'1", 6'2". 6'2" on a good day, maybe 6'3" on a good day. You never know. Shake his hand. This dude has huge hands, by the way. I'm like, I don't have the biggest hands. Dude, this guy's hands was like baseball bats. Like, they were fucking huge. So we take the picture, and I had to ask the question. This was in June, so this is before the Lerone Murphy fight and everything. I had to ask him a question. I said, is Yair next? Because that was the rumored fight was Yair Rodriguez. The rematch was going to happen for Volkanovski. Everybody was going to say, like, he was going to rematch Volk, and then Volk was going to retire. So I asked him, I said, is Yair next? He didn't hear me at first. So I'm going to try to do an Australian accent, but it's kind of shitty. He goes, what was that, mate? The nicest guy ever. He said, oh, we don't know yet, mate. We don't know yet. And that's all he said. I was blanking for a second on who I met next. I couldn't remember who exactly it was. But while I was waiting in line to meet Volkanovski, I met the Smo. And it was so random because we're standing in line and he's just walking by. And everybody's like, the guys behind me that I was talking to, they were like, that's the Smo. And I'm like, yo, can I get a picture, dude? Everybody's like, can you take a picture? He's like, yeah, man, I got you. And he smiles, dude. Dude, like watching his interviews and then meeting him in person, it was so weird because like his interviews, he has that voice on and stuff. And then in person, he's just like a normal guy. I'm like, bro, these are just regular guys, but like, they're like famous. So obviously the Smo was awesome. Volkanovski was awesome. Next guy I met was Cheeto Vera. For some reason, the line to meet Cheeto was not as long as I was expecting. I saw that Cheeto was there, and I was like, oh, the line's, a 10-minute line. Let me hop in. Hop in the line, met Cheeto. He didn't really say anything. I shook his hand. I was like, good to meet you, dude. He didn't say anything. I said, good to meet you. He literally said nothing. I'm like, dude, Cheeto, either you're high out of your mind right now, or I have no idea what's going on. I think he does smoke weed. I'm not too sure. But, it was a whatever. He was, of everybody I met there, he was probably like, he was the only one that really didn't say anything to me, which was, it's whatever. He met a lot of people that day. It's whatever, though. But the next guy that I met, dude, he didn't speak any English, but he was the nicest guy. If I had to guess, he was probably sitting, like, before the thing. He was probably, like, practicing these lines, because he got it down pretty good. So, I saw Mauricio Rufy with the line. They just put everything there, and I was like, you know what, let me hop in. I was 5-minute line for Mauricio Rufy. Shook his hand. He's like, good to meet you, good to meet you. And he doesn't speak English. So, and he says it, and I'm like, wow, this guy has, like, he can actually say, he said it pretty good. And then I'm like, bro, awesome to meet you. He shook my hand, just smiling the whole time. Dude, he was just enjoying the moment, having fun being there, and he was probably the nicest fighter I met there. Honestly, low-key, he was probably the nicest guy I met there, the nicest fighter. And then after that, this is a 2-day time period, by the way. Volkanovski was the first day, and then everybody else was the second day. After that, the line for Michael Chandler was in the same spot for the line for Volkanovski was, and I was like, God, dude, this is like the ESPN panel. This is probably going to take forever again. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop in. I got to meet Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler's fucking a legend. So I hop in, wait on Michael Chandler, meet him. He is like, dude, he is a ball. He's just like a short, muscular guy. It's like I'm standing beside him, and I'm like a head taller than him, and I'm like, dude, like this guy could beat my ass. Like if I say something stupid right now, he could beat my ass. And I have my friends texting me, like, this is whenever the Conor McGregor fight was still, partially rumored, and they're like, dude, tell him Conor beat his ass. But I'm like, dude, if I said that to Michael Chandler, he'd probably pick me up like he did Dustin Poirier and slam me in my neck and kill me. I'm not saying that to Michael Chandler. It's not happening. And then by the time I met Michael Chandler and everything, it was about 4 o'clock there, and I think the ufcx ended at 5 or 6 on the days they had it. And I was like, okay, I want to meet one more fighter before I leave. I was looking around, and for some reason, another amazing guy. He was so nice. Joe Pyfer's line, for some reason, only had like 13 people in it. I'm assuming it was because UFC 317 the prelims were already going on at the end of the ufcx. So what I'm assuming is that people were watching the fights. That's because Joe Pyfer, he's a cool guy. His line was so short. So I walk up to Joe Pyfer, shake his hand, and when I tell you guys, Joe Pyfer has the strongest grip strength I've ever felt in my life. All the fighters that I shook their hand, everybody, I thought Joe Pyfer broke my hand for a second. We're shaking hands, dude. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is a monster. He's, about the same height as me. He's like a little bit taller than me, and I'm like, dude, this guy would kill me. Like anybody here, this guy's like beating the shit out of. He just shaking my hand. I was like, dude, this is insane. Oh, like, this guy's a monster. But he was super cool. Everybody there he was joking around with, he was just having a good time. He was at the Twin Peaks panel, so I think he was trying to put on for the bad bitches. And honestly, Joe Pyfer, I'm not blaming you, dude. Not blaming you. He turned that body cam off. If you get that joke, you're a UFC fan, all right? And if you guys are still watching this video at this point, thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my main channel, and you guys have an awesome day.